All right, let's talk about learning a new language. We're going to break down the big ideas from Gabriel Weiner's book, Fluent Forever, to tackle a question that so many of us have. How do you learn a language and actually, remember it? We're about to unpack a whole new way of thinking about it.
I mean, does this sound painfully familiar? You put in all this time, maybe years, in a language class, and all you can confidently remember is how to say the alphabet. The author, Gabriel Weiner, had this exact same experience with Hebrew and Russian. It's a super common story, but here's the thing. The problem probably isn't you. It's the method you were taught.
So, what is going on here? Well, it turns out our brains are literally built to forget. This chart is called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and honestly, it's kind of brutal. It shows that in just one day, we can forget about 70% of new information. Within a week, it's almost all gone. This isn't a bug, it's a feature of how our memory works.
And that gets us to the heart of what the book calls the forgetting problem. The big takeaway here isn't that our brains are bad at remembering. It's that the old-school ways we're taught to learn are basically fighting a battle against our own biology. They're just not set up for success.
Just think back to school, right? It was all about endless flashcards, just saying the same words over and over and over. That's called rote repetition. And yeah, maybe it helps you cram a word into your head for a test tomorrow, but for actually building a memory that lasts, it's a terrible strategy. It just doesn't stick around.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to talk about how to hack your brain's memory system. Instead of fighting against it, we're going to learn how to work with it, to learn the way our brain actually wants to learn.
The whole secret sauce behind this is a concept from psychology called levels of processing. And the idea is actually pretty simple. How well you remember something comes down to how deeply you engage with it when you first learn it. So shallow thoughts, they create weak, flimsy memories. But deep, meaningful connections, those create memories that are built to last. And here is a perfect way to see the difference. Look at the left, a super shallow question. Is the word bear in all caps? Your brain just looks, answers yes or no, and moves on. Barely any effort. But now look at the right. Do you like pizza? Whoa. Suddenly your brain is firing on all cylinders, right? You're thinking about the smell, the taste, that time you had amazing pizza with friends. That is deep processing.
And get this, the payoff for that extra mental work is massive. Research cited in the book shows that information you process deeply is up to 6 times easier to remember. That's not just a little better, that is a total game changer for learning.
It really all boils down to this fundamental rule in neuroscience. Neurons that fire together wire together. Think of it like this. Every time you connect a new word to something else, a picture, a sound, a feeling, a personal memory, you're weaving another thread into a web. The more threads you have, the stronger that memory becomes.
Okay, so this brings us to the first huge practical technique from the book, the no translation rule. This is all about cutting out the middleman in your brain and connecting words directly to what they actually mean.
This slide shows you everything. On the left, you've got the old way, what we all did in class. You learn that the English word cat equals the Spanish word gato. But the new way is totally different. You see a picture of a fluffy cat and connect that image directly to the word gato. No English required.
Now, why is this so important? Because when you do it the old way, you're always doing this slow, clunky mental translation in your head. The book has this great analogy. It's like having an out-of-tune horn player in your brain's orchestra. By linking directly to an image, you silence that horn player and create a lightning-fast connection. That's what fluency feels like.
And it turns out our brains are visual memory superstars. I mean, just look at this stat. In one study, people correctly remembered 83% of, wait for it, 10,000 images they were shown. Our visual memory is a superpower, and this method taps right into it.
So we know how to make strong memories now. The second part of the puzzle is when to review them. This is all about timing. And the most important idea here is that actively recalling something from memory is way, way more powerful than just passively looking at it again.
And luckily, we have technology to help us with this. It's called a spaced repetition system, or SRS for short. Basically, think of it as a super smart flashcard app that acts like a personal trainer for your memory. It uses an algorithm to test you on a word at the exact perfect moment, right as you're about to forget it.
And the process itself is this beautiful, simple loop. First, you learn a new word, connecting it to an image, of course. Then, the system puts it on your schedule. When it pops up, you have to actively pull that word out of your brain. That struggle, that act of recalling, makes the memory stronger. So the system says, okay, great job, and waits even longer before it shows you that word again. It's so efficient. There's this awesome quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger that just perfectly captures why this works. If it's hard to remember, it'll be difficult to forget. That little bit of struggle when you're trying to recall a word is actually a good thing. Psychologists call it desirable difficulty. It's the effort that tells your brain, hey, pay attention, this is important, and that's what makes the memory stick.
So what happens when you put these two giant ideas together? You've got deep processing using images, and you have perfectly timed recall using spaced repetition. Well, when you combine them, the whole feeling of learning a language just changes. It stops being a chore.
It honestly turns into a kind of game. You're not just slogging through a boring vocabulary list anymore. You're a detective, you're an artist, you're actively building this amazing, rich web of connections, full of images and sounds and feelings, all inside your own head. It becomes creative, and it becomes fun.
So, to wrap it all up, here's your new toolkit. First, stop translating in your head. Connect new words directly to pictures and your own memories. Second, focus on pulling information out of your brain, not just putting it in. And finally, let a smart tool like an SRS handle the boring part, the scheduling, so you can just focus on the fun part.
And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. We tend to think of being good at languages as some kind of special talent you're either born with or you're not. But what if that's all wrong? What if being fluent isn't about natural talent at all, but just about knowing and using the right technique?